So, thank you for joining us. So I received a donation for about $50, and thank you for the donation from Tom Lucent. Is you're new to the channel, but Tom said I like the way you explain these things, break down this whole Reagan thing to me. So, as a conservative, I'm going to start off by saying this: conservatism is a French Revolution idea. What's going on, Donnie Links? How you doing, brother? Hit that subscribe bell, man. Make sure you click that thumbs up. So it is important for people like me. I'm a true conservative. I am not a neoconservative. I am not a liberal Republican. Yes, there is a such thing as a liberal Republican. So before I get into this Reagan thing, let me break down. Conservatism, liberal, these are ways that you manage. That's the simplistic term. These are ways, styles in which you manage culture and people. Okay. A party is different from a style of management. Coffee party can have a liberal coffee party person. They can have a conservative coffee party person. They can have a coffee party Whig person, which Whig is a totally different thing. So now that you understand how conservatism breaks down and where conservatism really originated, let me talk about my philosophy on America. I'm all about policy. I'm not about what the TV tells me to believe. I want to know, what did you write? How did you apply it? What did you write? How did you apply it? So we're going to go through this article very quick because this is very important for you to do. Research. Don't just go off opinions. Opinions means that you have no facts. That's what opinions mean. I think Donnie Links will agree with that. Opinions mean that you have no facts. So we're going to go into this. I'm going to do it at hyper speed, but I want you to understand what's going on. Before I do that, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section, man. These comments are very important to this YouTube algorithm. So make sure you do that. Make sure you also, if you want to kick in $5, $10, $20 to the king of classy Cash App, you can do that. And as you can see, you can do that. Donate. That is a way to keep this type of information going and flowing. All right. So now that I've said that, let's dig into what this article comes from, John Schwartz. Okay. So the breakdown is simply this: Jimmy Carter, he had two problems, really three problems, but they were not really problems. So let me break this down real quick. And I will go on anybody's stage and hold this argument because I read policy. The oil crisis was not something Jimmy could solve because he doesn't control the oil. America is a purchaser of oil. Okay? So when the Ayatollah Khomeini increased his situation from 1% or 0.5% to 4% of the oil, hey, gas went to how it went because you got to create a new contract. You either getting oil from Africa, Russia, Iran, or darn Saudi Arabia. That's where most of your oil comes from. At that time, remember this is 1978 or something like that. So at that time. So because he controls 4% of the oil, you have to renegotiate. That's going to happen at the end of Carter's term. You can't just up and jump. I mean, they got 4% of the oil. I mean, if we are over here in America running 4% of something, we gonna have it the way we have it. All right. So now that you understand that, the oil crisis is really not Jimmy's fault because he's a purchaser of the oil. He's not, he doesn't control it. Okay. He can negotiate for it, but the issue that was happening at the pumps had to do with processing. It had less to do with what was already purchased. It had to do with processing. And this is at a time where gas is like 50 cents or 59 cents a gallon. Okay. And people, because we didn't have the internet that time, we didn't have the ability to really dig into what was real and what was just talk. We had to rely on newspapers to tell us what was what. Okay. So now you dig into the second thing, the housing crisis. There is no housing crisis. Again, this is Americans not understanding that the house over here in JoJo County has an identical house 100 miles away, and they're two different prices. And the Fed does not set prices of houses. So if you have a housing issue where you live somewhere and your houses are going up, you're not realizing many of the real estate agents are shooting up these prices. The president has no control. If I buy a house in your neighborhood and every house in your neighborhood is 100,000, and I just slap on a $300,000 price tag on a house that I bought and let it sit for 2 years until it's finally sold. And then once it's sold for 300,000, guess what? Every house in that area is valued at 300,000 because the next real estate agent is going to try to get his for 300,000. That's how it works. It has nothing to do with the president. And even if you wanted to blame the president, it would be who's in charge of housing under Carter. It wouldn't be Carter himself. So this is the ridiculousness of people blaming Carter. And this is how I destroy people in these arguments. Because you can try to fantasize for the people who don't understand how politics work and try to get them to scare. But I want you to give me some detail. You and I know what's going on. Don't lie to the public. So here's the last thing. The last thing was the hostage thing. The hostage thing, according to the president of Iran, was fixed. They were coming home until Reagan and his friend made a weapons deal with the Ayatollah Khomeini. Make that make sense. You're not even president yet, Reagan. Why is your friend flying out to speak with the Ayatollah Khomeini? Why are y'all making deals asking to hold the hostages longer? But you guys think I'm lying. We're going to go into this thing with John Schwartz. John Schwartz did a pretty good article, and there's several other articles on this as well. But we're going to do the whole John Schwartz thing, and we're going to dig into it. So give me a second. All right, here we go. So this is The Intercept. This is John Schwartz. He put this out October 11, 2021. It's always good to give real journalists the credit that they deserve for taking the time and really putting in good stuff. Reagan conspired to keep hostages in Iran until after 1980 election. This is according to the president of Iran. Now, let me tell you the makeup. The Ayatollah Khomeini, when he came back into power, he had the mind of the people. So the government is secondary. The government is limited. The Persian people are stuck on their spirituality and their culture as their primary. Government is like fourth or fifth. on their list. Okay. So it's kind of like with a lot of other Islamics, they put the religion above everything else. And it's kind of like certain parts of Russia at certain times, they would put who they followed over government at certain points of time. So here we are. This is Bani Sadir or Bani Sadr, depending on how you want to pronounce. And he is the Iran president. Now, because I like winning debates, I'm going to read an actual quote from him. This isn't me making it up. This isn't Johnny Schwartz making it up. This is why CNN and even Fox News and MSNBC, they don't like reporting this detail because they don't want this type of information to get out. So at the end of the day, and I'm going to read this, Reagan ended up giving weapons to Iran for the hostages. That was the deal. Also, he can win an election. So not only was Evil Regan willing to have them hostages stay longer, he had his friend fly out, and we're going to get to his friend in a different video. He had his friend fly out, talk to Khomeini, make the deal, all while he's going through an election with Carter. And then, according to Bani Sadr, Ayatollah Khomeini would not go through with releasing them because he made a deal with Reagan. So let's dig into it. There have been remarkable obituaries. Only one mentions what is probably the most important fact about Bani Sadir's life. He claimed that Ronald Reagan's presidential campaign colluded. This is this guy. This isn't an American. Colluded with the Iranian government to keep hostages in Iran. Now, Iranian government, there are two parts of it. There's the Ayatollah Khomeini, and then there's the functioning government. Same way you would have the Queen of England versus your prime minister. The only deal is in Iran, the Queen of England would have more power than the prime minister. Okay, so in Iran, the Ayatollah Khomeini is part of the government, but he has more power. Now, the crazy thing is, when he was released from France, the Ayatollah Khomeini claimed he would not be part of no government, but he actually is. He just lied to get out. So now you understand that here's the guy telling you Reagan colluded. So we go on to say, and this is what John Schwartz put out, the lone exception. Now I'm reading this with you. I already knew most of this already, but I want to give John Schwartz his credit, so we're reading this live together. The lone exception was that the Associated Press even mentioned the subject was mostly knocked down. Think about that. The obituary stated that Sadir gained notoriety after alleging without evidence in a book that Ronald Reagan's campaign colluded with Iranian leaders to hold up the hostages' release. Stop right there. Now, it's good that John Schwartz says without evidence, because here's the real thing. That's an oxymoron. This guy was the president. He's going from his experience. Now, do we need to provide evidence? We're going to do that in a different video with Ronald Reagan's friend, who flew out with another guy and spent time with the Ayatollah Khomeini. Why would his rich friend, his donor friend, a donor for Reagan, fly out there to spend weeks plural, with the Ayatollah Khomeini. And a deal that Sadir had already constructed, the Ayatollah Khomeini pulled the deal. Now, mind you, the deal was already done with Carter, the hostages, and Sadir. That's a documented fact. The Ayatollah Khomeini, which is another documented fact, stopped that process out of the clear blue sky around the same time Ronald Reagan's friend flew out there. Oh, you should be donating me 20, 10 bucks, whatever, at this point in time. But you don't have to, because you've never heard a black man be this honest. Conservatism is about keeping it here. It's about working here, not going or putting citizens in danger to try to win an election and then end up giving weapons to darn Iran. That's not conservatism. That is liberal Republican mentality. You a Dixiecrat Reagan, because Reagan was a Dixiecrat before he was a Republican. You a Dixiecrat Reagan, willing to stop kids from going to school, call black people monkeys with a Nixon on the phone, and endanger hostages, and give weapons to hurt our troops, and not to mention what he did in Afghanistan. But I can go on and on. All to shine. It's crazy. It's really insane. So John Schwartz, we go on to say, rumors that Reagan's campaign had made some sort of agreement with Iran began swirling in Washington soon after Reagan's landslide victory. Now, that's speculation. That's rumors. They never got the evidence. And the evidence was his friend flew out there. And that's what stopped the deal with Sadir. There's no reason for his friend to go out there and sit with the Ayatollah Khomeini other than to help Reagan. His friend has no business dealings with the Ayatollah. His friend has no connection with the Ayatollah and what he's doing. He went out there as a proxy to speak on Reagan's behalf. And because we didn't have the internet, we were not able to get it real time. But this is the evil that Reagan would do just to win a freaking election. And you saw once Reagan got in there, what did he do? He started doing some of the most atrocious things that it's taken us 10, 20 years to undo. You don't like the welfare system? Carter made it a two-parent home. You know, all you guys complaining about keeping a father out the home? Carter created a 1979 two-parent welfare policy. Reagan changed it back to a one-parent. You don't like that Afghanistan weapons thing? Reagan took the soldiers out of the hills. The Russians came back into the hills, and then Reagan sold weapons to the Afghanistanians, creating the whole Afghan nonsense we've had to deal with for several decades. I can go on and on. I'm a conservative because conservatism is about keeping it here. It's not about all this giving people weapons stuff, endangering hostages. If a Democrat does that, I'm going to call him evil too. Hillary Clinton, evil is all outdoors. Hillary Clinton, evil state secretary, evil is all outdoors. Everything Hillary Clinton touches turns to poison. Her husband also, but he's secondary to Hillary. And I'm not saying because she's a woman, her policies are terrible. But let's continue. By 1992, what would have been the final year of George Bush, there was political pressure on the subject of the Senate and the House of Representatives open an investigation on this. Ain't that a trip? We never hear about this, which is why I'm making this video. We never hear about this stuff. By this point, Sadir referenced by the AP, stated in his 1991 memoir, My Turn to Speak. This is his memoir. The election's over with. He's not president no more. This guy gains nothing by making this statement. But it was shady. So he spoke on it. Americans close to Reagan had proposed a reconciliation between governments, but a secret agreement between leaders. Now, this is him saying this. He had, in fact, spoken publicly about this in real time in late October 1980. He spoke about this in 1980, October of 1980. You can't make this stuff up. He spoke about this in October of 1980. Go look up the book, October Surprise. I'm always referencing you guys to books. Gary Sick wrote a great book, October Surprise. And there's one written by a lady also on the October Surprise. And this is just the evil of a guy that these liberal Republicans glorify. Neocon. Neoconservative is just liberal Republican. It's a Dixiecrat Republican. That's all it is. That's all it is. A Republican that's anti-black, just angry all the time, trying to create bullshit. So in his memoir, My Turn to Speak, which I'm gonna make sure we look that one up and read that to you. We'll make sure we read that to you, but not now. We're going to do a different video on that. I'll make sure we read that to you. Sadir wrote that he had in fact spoken publicly about this in real time. Everyone was openly discussing the agreement with the Americans on the Reagan team. Ain't this a trip? And CNN don't talk about it. And here's why. Because the people that love Reagan want to suppress how evil Reagan was. The people who love Reagan want to keep the image of Reagan in some unicorn, fantasy flying unicorn type of thing. The dude was evil. Iran-Contra affair, evil, led to nothing. Crack cocaine, evil, led to nothing. Everything this guy touched. 41 told you guys it was voodoo economics. It didn't even work out. Nothing Reagan did flourished. Name something that Reagan did for Americans, not people outside of America, for Americans that helped America. He destroyed the unions. Clinton did another destroy. Reagan created NAFTA. Hey, I care more about people outside the country selling to Americans than I care about Americans that are selling to people outside the country. That's what NAFTA is. NAFTA is giving you the ability to not get taxed if you outside of the country and you want to sell to America. That's all NAFTA is. It's really that simple. But pull up by your bootstraps, you should pay your own way. You shouldn't need a government to create a policy to help you not pay tariffs. That's crazy. That's crazy. But let's continue. Everyone was openly discussing the agreement with the Americans on the Reagan team. This is him saying this. This ain't me saying it. In October 27, the issue of Islami, or the Islamic revolution, I published an editorial saying that Carter was no longer in control of the U.S. foreign policy and had yielded the real power to those who negotiated with the mullahs on the hostage affair. There it is. There it is. If Reagan is interfering with a president that's working to get hostages, how evil is that? And I dare somebody to disagree with what I'm actually saying instead of remixing it and trying to deflect. In December of 92, Sadir sent a detailed letter to the investigation task force. Remember, they opened an investigation. He had learned of the possibilities of a hostage deal in July 1980. So it seems like he misquoted that. He learned of the deal that was going on with Ayatollah Khomeini. He said the nephew of Ayatollah Khomeini, the first supreme leader of Iran. Oh, he said he learned about it from the nephew. So he didn't even understand why it didn't go through. Wow, that's deep. He didn't he didn't know what the Ayatollah Khomeini was doing. The Ayatollah Khomeini told him to just kill that whole release him deal. And so he's being told by the nephew what went on. Jesus Christ. Just putting American people in danger. Ben Sadir later wrote the Ben Affleck's movie misrepresented some facts around the revolution in Iran. Well, most movies tend to do that. Reagan and the Ayatollah Khomeini created a September surprise, which prevented the attempts by myself and President Jimmy Carter to free the hostages. Man, let me highlight that, man. You guys be thinking I'm joking when I tell you this political stuff. Ayatollah Khomeini. This is a quote from this guy. We got to highlight this. Ayatollah Khomeini and Ronald Reagan had organized a negotiation, later known as October Surprise, all to win an election. He goes on to say, 2 of my advisors were executed by Khomeini's regime because they had become aware of this secret. Let me let that sink in. I'll show you how evil Reagan was. He couldn't win the election against Carter. Carter had low numbers, low unemployment, and the 3 things I told you about. Oil was not really a crisis because you didn't control that. That was Iran bumping it up because they had 4% of the oil, and processing takes a year or 2 to do. So the darn oil was going to come down, but at that moment, it was what it was. So when Carter did this whole speech about, hey, we need to reserve a little bit as we go through this period, he was letting people know, hey, look, this is a small period in time. There really is no oil crisis. And there was no oil crisis. They just upped the prices. Happens all the time. Y'all going through that now, 2023. They just upped the prices. Second thing is there was no housing issue. And according to this, the October surprise, there was no hostage issue. And then when Reagan came in, he quadrupled the Mexican green cards. Leave a comment in the comment section if you think I'm wrong. Reagan created all this freaking inflation. Jimmy didn't create it. It didn't happen under Jimmy. It happened under this idiot. His second, third year. And then he tried to blame it on Jimmy. But the vice president, Bush, told you that it was voodoo economics. It ain't going to work. It'll never work. There's no such thing as trickle down. I care about America. So this is why I'm making this point. I have never been a Reaganite. I was a little kid and I could identify on the TV. Reagan was a pretender. He didn't care about America. He worked against union jobs. But let's go back to this. The passage from Sadir held more of a moderate position than other factions. So his power was limited, as I explained, under Ayatollah Khomeini. So let's be fair, because John Schwartz is fair here. Sadir's credibility. I don't know how you can judge the credibility of a sitting president and how he is seeing it in a country where the spiritual leader is more important than the president. What do you want the spiritual? Two of his people were executed. He claims the nephew told him. What type of Ronald Reagan's friend flew out there and stayed with Ayatollah Khomeini for weeks? What? You need more evidence? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Sadir's credibility has been called into question. Let's see. It sounds like it's going to be deflection. But Sadir's analysis, it's not an analysis, demonstrates how some Iranians may have mistakenly misled themselves to believe Khomeini's representative met with. It's documented. Khomeini and Reagan's friend met. We're going to get to that on another video. But see how it's deflection? How is it credibility is in question when you just throwing out an open-ended thing? Hey, you might have been mistaken. Mistaken is not no evidence for what this guy is saying. He's saying this is what he experienced. Bob Livingston called Sadir a bunch of names on the House floor in 91. Didn't provide no evidence. Bob's not providing no evidence. And this is one thing I hate about politics. When people make documented statements, I want you to come with something documented to show how it's not true. He's saying this is what he experienced. You saying he didn't. Why are you saying he didn't experience that? It's crazy. And this is why we don't get nowhere, because we just want to help people hurt Americans. This is one thing I understand about America. We have too many people willing to pass policies against Americans to help people outside of America. It's the craziest thing on the planet. However, Sadir is by no means the only official to assert that there was an agreement with Reagan. The late reporter Robert Parry covered this subject in great depth. We're going to look that up too. We're gonna take that on at a different time. All right, for a different video. Robert Parry points out that the former Israeli Prime Minister Shamir stated that, of course, there was an October conspiracy with Reagan. Now, that's just his assertion. He's not providing no evidence. He's just tagging along. So I'm not going to take what the Israeli guy says, because he was not over there. He's just saying, of course. The extremely conservative head of French intelligence has said that de Maranches told him that the French Secret Service helped arrange those meetings. Wow. I'm going to stop right there, man, because that deserves a video all on its own. That deserves a video all on its own. We're going to leave it right there. Make sure you donate to the channel, man, providing you some good good, true conservative information. Remember, conservatism is all about keep it here. You know, don't 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 betray me. We should be able to have a lot of stuff here, but we're constantly creating policies against American citizens. I'm not a Reaganite. I never liked the new conservative mindset, which is just liberal Republican, Dixiecrat Republican. That's all it really is. But this is why I tell you guys, there's a separation. And you got to have people with the courage to come forth and call this stuff out. Thank you so much for you guys tuning in, man. I'm going to drop this. For you guys tuning in, I want you guys to make sure, man, that you always research your opinions. Research your opinions. That's the key thing to do, man. Research your opinions. Don't let people just tell you stuff. Research. And once again, if you'd like to donate, you donate to the King of Classic. If you'd like to reach me, there's 2 ways to reach me. You can Gmail me at researchyouropinions@gmail.com, or you can hit me with the Gmail calatre@gmail.com. Much love, man. And this was a much needed review. We're going to dig into some more later. After I handle some business for the day, I'll dig into some more tonight. If you love this information, make sure you pass it around. Spread it on your Facebook. Spread it on your Instagram. Spread it on all formats. Much love. We will talk to you soon. Peace out.